Hi everyone, so today we're going to be doing a video on service dogs. If you feel that you need a service dog or the service dog would help you, and what steps you should take and how that process kind of looks. So I have written down some notes of all of the information that I have, and I'm going to be sharing that with you guys today. This is going to be a three-part video. Part 1 is going to be what to do if you think you need a service dog and how to get started. Part 2 is going to be the pros and cons of having a service dog, and Part 3 is going to be, at some later date, how to find a good breeder, to find a good puppy to be a service dog prospect if you are owner training. So, step 1 is going to be finding out if you qualify for a service dog. Now, that sounds pretty simple to most people, but a lot of people just say, oh, I have a disability, I'm diagnosed with a disability, and therefore I qualify for a service dog. And that's not necessarily true. If you have a disability, you may not necessarily be disabled by it. For example, there are autistic adults that live their lives normally, aren't disabled by their disability enough to warrant needing a service dog. Or there are wheelchair users that are completely independent and don't need a service dog for help, so they aren't necessarily disabled by their disability. So if you have a disability, you have to actually be disabled by it. And the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act, definition of a disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. So if you aren't sure if you are technically disabled by your condition, legally speaking, you should speak to your doctor or your physician or whoever it is that normally treats you and knows about your disability. So that's the first step. And the next step is to think about how are you going to get your service dog. There are several programs out there that train fully trained service dogs and place them with disabled individuals. In order to qualify for these programs, you have to have specific disabilities. Different programs train for different disabilities. Canine Companions for Independence is one that trains for mostly physical disabilities such as wheelchair users. There is Guide Dogs for the Blind that trains for guide and vision loss. So it just depends on what kind of disabilities you have. You can find different organizations. Some organizations provide dogs free of charge. All you have to do is go to the training session and learn how to work your dog. But most organizations are anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 plus for a fully trained service dog. And the wait list is anywhere from 1.5 years to 4 or 5 years. And that wait list might seem like a really long time, but something to keep in mind is that if you are owner training your service dog, it's going to take you the same amount of time to find the right dog and to fully train it. So you have to consider, are you able to fundraise for a fully trained service dog? Are you able to wait that 2 years, or are you going to try to owner train? If you're going to try to owner train a service dog, this is going to be the rest of the video on owner training and how that works and what that looks like. And it is a lot of work. It's a lot harder than people think it is. So you need to think about, the first thing is a breed. So most times when you get a dog from a program, they work with specific breeds and you don't really get to pick what breed of dog you have. But if you're owner training, you get to choose what breed you want to be your service dog. And breed is very, very important because different breeds have different abilities and different skill sets. So do you need a larger breed that can do deep pressure therapy, that can do guide work or mobility or retrievals of large items like a crutch or a cane? Do you need a smaller dog that can sit on your lap in your wheelchair and can do medical alert? Things like that. You need to figure out, first of all, what size of dog you need. And the next thing to look at is breed. There are several breeds that are most commonly used for service work. There are what we call the Fab Four of larger breeds, which are Golden Retrievers, Labrador Retrievers, Poodles, and Collies, both rough and smooth Collies. That's short-haired and long-haired. Some people say German Shepherds are in there too, but German Shepherds are only used for specific disabilities because they aren't proven to be great with anxiety disabilities because they can pick up on the handler's disability, become anxious themselves, and or become aggressive, and you do not want that in a service dog. So those are the most popular larger breeds. Some popular smaller breeds are Cavalier King Charles, Chihuahuas can be good. So it just depends on your needs and what you're looking for in a service dog, what tasks you're going to need. So think about what breed you're going to want. And there's a saying in the service dog community, which is need before breed. So you're not just going to get a dog that, oh my gosh, I love this breed because it's so cute. You need a dog that's going to do the job that you need. So at first I didn't like poodles. I thought they were ugly. I didn't like the breed. But it turns out that that is the breed that is best for me for my disability. So that's the breed that I went with. Not because I wanted a poodle, but because that's the breed that was going to be most effective for my disability. So once you've done all of your research, you've talked to different people that own the breed, you know what breed you want, you're going to start thinking about what tasks do you need the dog to do. And this again seems like it's pretty common knowledge, but I see so many people on service dog groups that I'm on Facebook and stuff, that are like, okay, I'm ready to start task training my service dog. What tasks should I do? I have no idea. If you don't know what tasks you need your dog to do, why did you start training a service dog? I mean, I don't want it to be rude, but if you need a service dog, you should know what tasks the dog can do to help you, because that's what makes a service dog. Emotional support dogs are excellent. And yes, by law, you do have to have a diagnosed disability to have an emotional support animal. To have it in no pet housing or to have it on an airplane, your emotional support animal, you have to have a disability that is diagnosed and your doctor says that it helps your disability. Getting that out of the way. But emotional support is not considered a service, it's not considered a task because it requires no training. Most dogs are friendly and will come and cuddle you when you're not feeling well or when you're upset or depressed or whatever it is, and that's great, but that is an emotional support animal and it is not trained. It just does that naturally. So for a service dog to be trained to help you with anxiety and stuff, they have to be able to do specific tasks such as guiding you to an exit or doing deep pressure therapy on specific areas of your body on specific cues. So service dog training takes at least 2 years and is very specific, and it's not just emotional support. So once you know that you qualify for a service dog and you have an idea of what kind of tasks your dog can do to help you, and you have an idea of what kind of breed you want, there are things to start considering is whether you can train your service dog. And I got this information from a video on the, My Service Dog and Me is the online academy, but there is Train Your Service Dog with Confidence, and then it is, Train Your Service Dog with Confidence, Positive Reinforcement Training. It's a Facebook group, and it's an excellent group. She also has a My Service Dog and Me online academy, which is basically like $30-40 a month. You sign up, you work through the classes with your service dog and yourself, and it's an online academy. You submit videos, you can get feedback. Both of those are great sources for owner training. But again, this information from now on I got from a video from the Train Your Service Dog with Confidence service dog page. So this is what you have to consider when you're going to train a service dog. Most people that don't want to wait for a program dog, they say, 2 years, 3 years, that's too long to wait, I need a service dog now. But they don't think about the fact that if you get a puppy and start training it, it's not a fully trained service dog until it's 2 years old. So you're going to be spending the entire time from the puppy is 8 weeks to 10 weeks, however old you get the puppy, until 2 years old. That time is all training. Every time you go out somewhere with your dog until it's about 2 years old, you are training. It's not just taking your dog everywhere with you and suddenly you have a service dog. There is so much more to it. You can't have a timeline for owner training. And if it's your first dog or your first time training and you're working with a trainer, you can expect it to take longer than 2 years. So the wait time for a service dog from an organization is about equal or possibly less time than it's going to take to train your own dog. So keep that in mind. It's not a quick solution and there's no timeline, and it's going to take several years to get a well-trained service dog. So that's the first thing to think about. The next thing to think about is you have to have access to certain things in order to be able to train a service dog. And some of those things that you need access to are other dogs. You need access to other dogs of all sizes, breeds, and ages to expose your dog to. And there's a lot of trainers, just like pet trainers, that you can go do puppy classes, canine good citizen classes. Those are all excellent to get your dog used to working around other dogs. You need to have your dog exposed and be able to work around other dogs of all different kinds. You also need to be able to have access to people that can help you train. Children, babies, people of different body types, skin colors, hair types, all kinds of different people your dog needs to be exposed to and trained around. And this includes like emergency medical personnel, people in weird costumes, all different kinds of people your dog needs to be able to work around, so you need access to that to be able to train your service dog. You also need people that are willing to help you with task training. For example, if you need your dog to go behind you and block when somebody comes up behind you, you need somebody that's willing to come up behind you again and again and again and again until your dog gets it. Or if you want people to circle you in a crowd, you need to have a crowd of people that you can work in. If you want your dog to follow a specific person, you need a person to follow to be able to train that task. So you need to have access to people that can help you with your training. You also need to have access to other animals, and this is something that I did not do with Kismet, and I regret it, and it's something that we have to work extra hard on now because I didn't do it when he was a puppy. You need to train your service dog to be comfortable around rabbits and cats and livestock and all sorts of other kinds of animals. And you might say, oh, I live in the city, I'm never going to be around those animals. What happens when you go on vacation, or you go to the zoo, or your dog sees a horse pulling a carriage in New York? Your dog has to be comfortable with those things and be able to not startle, to be able to keep working, keep focused. So you have to, again, be able to work around other kinds of animals that are not dogs. And again, this is something I didn't work on with Kismet, and I regret it, and we're having to backtrack now because of it on those things. So it's important to have access to that when you train your service dog. Another thing that you have to have access to is transportation. If you aren't able to drive yourself, if you rely on public transit, how are you going to train a puppy? Because puppies cannot go on public transit right away. They're not ready for that yet, emotionally, physically, they're just not ready. So you have to be able and willing to go to the store for 5 minutes for a training session and then come home. You have to be able to drive. If I for instance live in a small town, sometimes I have to drive half an hour to get to the store. I had to drive half an hour to get to the store, train for 5 minutes, and then drive half an hour back home. You have to be willing to spend that time, because when your dog is young, you're not going to be doing long training sessions, 5, 10, 15 minutes when your dog is, 6, 8, 10 months old. Very short training sessions. You can't just be taking your dog grocery shopping and I'm going to go grocery shopping with my 6-month-old service dog in training. That's not how it works. You have to always be focused on your dog every time you go out. And that's the thing that people don't understand about owner training, rather than getting a program dog, is that when you get a fully trained program dog, yeah, you can go to the grocery store and go shopping, awesome. But when you're training your service dog and you have a 6-month, 8-month, year-old, year-and-a-half-old dog, you can't just go to the grocery store and expect everything to be great. You have to be focused on your dog. If you're shopping and your dog sees another dog and starts going crazy, you have to stop what you're doing, focus on your dog, get it refocused, and if you can't get your dog refocused, you have to leave. That's how it goes. You can't have focus on yourself when you're focusing on training your dog. So you have to keep that in mind. It's really, really, really important that you have access to the finances to train your dog and to have a dog. I see so many disabled people that are like, I'm on disability, I don't make much money, I can't hold a job, my dog needs food, or my service dog needs gear, and I can't afford it. And that happens a lot. And if that's a situation that you're in, you should very, very, very highly consider waiting until you are more responsible financially and able to support yourself more financially before you get a dog. Because I just had an instance this week. Kismet isn't feeling well. We had to go to the vet, and I spent over $200 at the vet yesterday because he wasn't feeling well. And luckily I'd just gotten paid and I was able to pay for that. But emergencies happen. Dogs get sick. So you have to be able to handle that financially. You also have to be able to have support from your family. Especially if you're a minor and you live at home, or if you are going to be around your family a lot, they have to be supportive of your service dog. If you live with your parents and they don't want you to have a service dog, and they are going to not follow your rules, feed your dog food, let your dog on the couch if you don't want them on the couch. That's not going to work. Everyone in your household has to be cooperative and understand that you are training a service dog, and that the rules are the rules are the rules, and that's the way it goes. So you have to have everyone be able to be cooperative with your service dog training. You also have to consider puppy phases, because the absolute best chance that you have of being successful with a service dog training yourself is finding a reputable breeder and starting with a puppy. That's your absolute best chance. So are you ready to handle puppy phases? Are you ready to basically have a baby dog that's going to keep you up at night, and you have to kennel train, and you have to potty train, and you have to leash train, and you have to work through fear stages and puppy stages and the teenage stage where they basically forget everything that they've been trained, and you have to keep working through it? There's a lot of things that deal with having a puppy and raising a puppy. And again, a dog is not an adult until it's about 2 years old, with at least medium to large size breeds. So you have to consider, are you able to go through puppy stages? So this, again, is just a very basic coverage, and I know my video is getting a little bit long here, so I'm going to wrap it up. But this is just some really basic things to consider when you're considering whether you should get a service dog. So please pay very close attention to this video. These things are very important. They're things I wish I had known before I got started with my service dog journey. So this is part 1. Part 2, again, is going to be the pros and cons of having a service dog, and I highly encourage watching that video as well, because again, they're things that I wish that I had known. So this is part 1, and thank you for watching. Thanks, guys.